Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Exceed, the show where I, Gearface, washed scrubby Exceed player, sit down with an expert that I've tricked through deceit and guile to waste their time teaching me an Exceed character. And hopefully you get something good out of it too, I guess. Um, I'm sitting down today with Banazama to talk about Hazama, Season 5's Weird Snake Guy. Bana, really excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me talk about Hazama. I am a Hazama enthusiast.
No problem at all. Um, it occurs to me that I probably don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Hazama or Hazama?
So I guess it's Hazama, just because
Okay,
it's the Japanese
sure.
name, and you put like emphasis on every like
Right,
I guess
kind of
syllable there,
evenly. All
but
right.
like
So,
everyone like just calls him Hazama. It really doesn't
okay. So
matter.
one of us is going to have hurt his feelings, but he's kind of a jerk, so I don't care.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
you know.
So, so quick disclaimer before we get started. All pronunciations are our own, obviously. The actual disclaimer
Mhm.
is we're going to be talking about playing to win on this show. And that is not how you have to play Exceed. Exceed is fun and can be played for fun, but we're sort of going to be talking about like the tournament plan in this show. And if you don't want to play that way, please don't. Please play the way that you want to have fun with and have fun doing it. And the other part of the disclaimer is we're going to be talking kind of for brevity's sake about strategy in sort of absolute terms sometimes. I might be asking questions and Bana might be giving me answers that sound like laws, right? Like always do this, never do this. This is always correct. That always has an asterisk next to it. And if you think that you have a better line of play that we haven't considered, let me know. Win with that line of play. I want to hear about it. I'd like this to kind of be an ongoing dialogue about these characters. Um, that's it. That's the disclaimer out of the way. Bana, tell me about this weird snake man.
Alrighty. Well, luckily you were saying, there's no laws in Exceed. It kind of applies it very well to Hazama here. But before we go over any laws, I guess we could say let's just take a look at this character real quick. We can just even ignore the text on the screen right now. Let's just take a look at this guy. We just at first glance, we take a look at him. He's holding that knife there. That tells me, this guy, he's not here for the brute force approach. He's here to, be precise. He's going to use that knife and he's going to precisely hack away at your weak points there.
With a big grin
Um,
on his face too.
yeah. You look at that smile on his face. He's
Yeah,
clearly here to have fun.
this
Have
little
fun.
scamp.
Yeah. Um, all right. Well, now that we have kind of an idea of what he does just from his appearance, let's actually like look at the things that matter. The ability here. It's spend one force to use one of his Ouroboros here, or the portals, as some people colloquially call it. Um, Kind of do function like a portal, even though that's not really what we in. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be his chain, but
Right.
in terms of like the exceed imagery, it feels like a portal. You set this, or you spend a force, you set this down, or one of these down, and you got to figure out what he's doing with that there.
And so
Um,
these are identical on one side, and on the
yeah,
other have different text. And I'm
correct.
setting
So
one
he's
as my
either
ability, and my opponent doesn't know which one it is.
correct.
Okay.
So yeah, what he's doing is he's gonna set one of these down, and it creates what we call a pre-beat movement effect in a way. Like an exceed when you're in the strike, like let's say I don't know. I'm just gonna.
You're talking about
We don't need another character.
like Mole Knight's character
Yeah.
ability, where
Yeah. Mole Knight's character ability is a very good analog where you don't really know what's well with Mole Knight they have to declare, right?
right
So
right
you know that they're gonna come in with
right
Hazama. Like because like with Mole Knight, let's pretend this was like the burrow or something, and like you're right here. You go, okay, well you gotta when he declares, you're like, okay, he's gonna be right here. Like it's a
Right.
matter of whether he's gonna go slow or fast.
Right. And
You have
the
to
the
guess
timing
it.
the timing on it is different too, right? This is a now
Hmm.
effect, and Mole Knight's effect is a before, which is why you called it
Correct.
a
Yeah.
pre-beat movement. So it's
Yeah. It's which is a term we take from BattleCon.
right.
In BattleCon, you kind of have to. Well, let's start with what I was trying to explain before. In Exceed, like I don't have a character, so we'll pretend
Here,
this is
yeah.
a character.
Let me grab Ryu for you. Ryu can be our punching
Yeah,
bag.
that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, here you go.
This is perfect. If we're like, in Exceed, if I declare a strike from this position, you go, yes, you're gonna be at range one, so I just have to guess what range one option you're gonna play.
Right.
In BattleCon, when you like, well, it's you only strike in BattleCon, but it's a guess of whether like where you're gonna be when things happen in BattleCon. Hazama kind of does that because he spends a force, he plays one of his identical things, and you go, okay, he has declared a strike. Is he actually at range two now, or did he just pretend to go to range two?
Right.
So this gives Hazama the what I would call the colloquial four-way mix-up. It's not just okay, is he going fast, slow, or mid speed at range one? It's now, is he going for any of these options at range one or any of these options at range two?
Right. And so
Uh,
just to get a sense of like how to value this ability, Bana,
mhm,
uh, I had a lesson with Reggie about Mole Knight a while back,
mhm,
and a big part of Mole Knight's ability is that he can move very far for free and do an above curve or like dramatically below curve strike in a way that's advantageous to him. And Hazama
mhm.
can't really do that, right?
No.
He's the now effect means that you're there prior to the strike actually going off. You're not getting a speed bonus out of it. And also the force that you're spending is analogous to the movement that you're doing to the card anyway.
Mhm,
You can set it at range one. You set it, you're here. You set it right here. I spent one force. I could have spent that one force to move anyway. The difference is that
mhm.
I'm doing it during a strike. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, you could spend one force and go here, but then you're you've given the onus on your opponent to react to that.
Right. So
Um,
is it kind of like I'm just trying to think of an analogy here because Mole Knights isn't working for me. Is it kind of like the boost on season 6 spike mix up the move one now strike boost? It's like is it like that but just ambiguous?
that's yeah, that might actually be a better comparison point than Mole Knight, just because yeah, as you mentioned, there's a bunch of smaller caveats with Mole Knight that make it function differently. Like at worst, this is mix up. Like you're spending a force in order to be like, okay, I am establishing what range we're gonna play the offense.
Right. So
That is like
doing it totally face up is a strong enough thing on its own. The fact that I can do it ambiguously on top of it is very very powerful. It sounds like then.
yes,
Okay.
yes, essentially. Like there was it. There's a character in season one, Ulrich. Um, where is Ulrich here?
Ulrich's up here. You need me to pull him?
Yeah, if you want to pull him, just because I
Yeah,
don't see him on the screen
I
there.
got
Yeah, so
Ulrich.
like Ulrich, yeah, he doesn't quite play like Hazama just because he's got a kit full of power, which
Right.
Hazama doesn't have. But like you read Ulrich's ability here, and he's got like as an action, I can move and strike essentially.
Right.
Like
So
at worst, this
it's like
is a
that, but
more expensive. Yeah,
yeah, and Hazama's kind of spending a force to do a similar thing, but on top of it, he gets the ability to obfuscate his intentions a little bit.
correct, correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so you kind of want to leverage. Well, you don't want to over leverage obfuscation, just because as I found, or when I first started playing Hazama, I really liked the obfuscated part of the kit. That's a very fun line to run, which is just, you're gonna keep slamming this down and you just keep making your opponent guess,
Right.
overwhelm them with information.
Right.
But as the Exceed player base's average like skill level rises, I've been finding that this method has not been as successful. If you're just playing for fun, you can still just try and run this line, but I just find like you can't just keep wasting resources with Hazama forever,
Right. Because
without like.
to use the rubric that we were just talking about,
Mhm.
effectively what you're doing is spending one force to move zero.
Yeah,
When you're
yeah.
when
So
you're
like if
bluffing.
you're, yeah, when you're
Yeah.
bluffing, it's one force to effectively do nothing if your opponent doesn't bite at it, right?
Right.
Um, like at least with if you're actually moving with the actual move version of the Ouroboros, like at least you're being you have tempo because you're moving and striking. You're compressing your action, so you're at least getting value out of there. If
Right.
you're,
Okay.
yeah, you're just there's gonna be times where you absolutely want to obfuscate your intentions with the move zero,
Right.
just so that you don't get read like a book. But you can't just run that line forever, because then you're basically throwing a bunch of cards in the garbage to do that.
Right.
So yeah, like you gotta throw this in once in a while just to keep people on their toes. But like Hazama is a he's on a budget. He has only so much money he can spend in a month, so he can't afford to, frivolously spend all his paycheck every time. So
Just trying to confuse people or bluff people.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I'm sure we'll get into this as we discuss the card shapes
Uh-huh.
themselves. But so, what are some use cases for this? Like this is something that I could set at range one, which could be here. It could be here too, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like I'm thinking about range one spike, for example. Like I
Yep.
can set it behind me and then appear here and spike somebody. Um, what are some or just I have an assault in my hand and I want to play it and I'm this far away, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
it can kind of make his range band maybe a little fuzzier and a little more flexible than most other
Mm-hmm.
characters. But are there any specific like use cases for these cards that are like other than just be in the position where your strike hits? Um,
He,
what does he get out of these cards in particular?
um. So like, I would say not. It really is just be where he wants to be or obfuscate. Like he doesn't get anything extra. I would say it just the idea of being able to strike where you really want to is
That's powerful
like
enough on its own.
just powerful enough on its own. Like
Gotcha. Okay.
once we go over his kit, like we'll find that like a lot of his stuff works at range 2. And Hazama is a mix-up character, and the mix-up range for Exceed is like 2 and 3 here, right?
Sure.
So like being stuck at range 1 kind of sucks for him. But he has a UA that goes, "Oh, you spent your turn going to range 1 or something." Well, you're never at range 1.
Right.
That is like the what's it called? The floor of the ability is, I'm never at range 1. Oh, you tried to escape. I'll just
Right.
go to range 3 and I can assault in stuff like that. Like that's the
Right.
floor of the ability.
That's the least it can do. Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of my and again we'll talk about this as the lesson goes on, I'm sure,
Mhm.
but in terms of like my force expenditures and stuff, um is this something that I should like if I'm already at range 2 and I don't feel like I'm going to benefit a lot from obfuscating my move in particular. I don't have anywhere that I would rather move to. Maybe I just strike without his ability that turn. Is that something
Yeah,
that
you
happens a
would.
lot with Azama?
That is something that will happen a lot, just because, as I mentioned before, you only have so much in your paycheck for every month,
Right.
so you don't want to just always spend. like range 2 is pretty good for Hazama. A lot of his stuff will hit. Um, range 2 maybe isn't like the most optimal range all the time. So like you might want to like back up to range 3 or something.
Sure.
But if you're already in like a range for mix up, like you don't have to spend. One of the things about mix ups is like you want to have like your options available. A mix up isn't a real mix up if you've spent all of one option, right?
Oh,
Like if I'm
sure.
here,
Yeah.
let's pretend ignoring specials for a second. If we're at range 3
Right.
and I want to represent assault spike, that's infinitely less you threatening if say all my spikes are down.
Totally. Yeah. My
So
opponent just plays sweep all day and has no
yeah,
fear about it.
exactly.
And
Yeah, there's no
similarly, like
fear.
like I'm like, all right, cool. I'm at range 3. I have a dive in my hand. I will obfuscate the dive by backing up here to range 4 and then playing a face up dive because that's all I have among the normals that hits at range 4. Like that's not a mix up.
hmm
Right.
Yeah, that's not a mix up. I mean, if you were gonna play dive at like from here, obfuscating would actually be, oh, I'm going to pretend to go to range
Right.
4 because that's not a
Right.
mix up, or and you threaten like a range 4 move, and then maybe they'll go, oh well. I mean, like dive's not a great example because if they think you're actually moving back, then they would probably do something else. But
Right. But
you know,
in that case where the mix up is coming from then wouldn't be from the attack itself, it'd be coming from
yeah,
his
like this would be
Ouroboros.
from here. But
Right.
like
I
the
get you.
point is, like if you're gonna run mix-ups, like you don't want to spend all your options. Using the ability costs a force. That force has to be spent with something. So you will be spending one of your options if you wanted to use the UA. It might be an assault, it might be a spike you spend, it might be maybe, a normal that's not part of a mix up. But eventually you might be spending things you think, oh, well, this would be great for a mix up later. So you can't just throw everything out
Right.
because then you'll run out of options. Like information bleed's a very real thing with Hazama if you're going to if you're like throwing out the Ouroboros every single time. So
Totally.
you
Yeah.
do have to be careful.
Okay. All right, cool. That makes sense. So those are some use cases for the ability. And
hmm
and before we get into the attack shapes and stuff, normally at this point we would talk about the exceed ability, but
hmm
because this is a Blaze Blue character, a season 5 character, they have overdrive instead.
hmm
So so the use case for exceeding is a little bit different. It's not really something maybe even to talk about as a major thing the character does in every situation.
hmm
It's not like a flat upgrade for the whole game.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're the one with the experience here. Is this a time to talk about overdrive, or
I
should that come
think
later?
overdrive might be better to fit in with ultras, especially for a character like Hazama. He, like I said, he's got a budget he has to stick to.
Yeah,
I'm going to repeat that phrase a lot. He's got a budget, which means you know what? Gauge expenditure, it's going to be a little tight. You might. He's also got like all these ultras here that cost like a lot of gauge. I mean, this
sure,
isn't really an ultra, but
sure.
might
Okay,
come up
yeah,
like so.
yeah. So
Usually what's going to happen is he's going to have to like choose what he's going to spend. Is he going to like flip over, or is he going to use one of these cards?
right. So maybe when we
So
talk about the
like
ultras, we can evaluate how good they are versus how good the exceed ability is.
yeah, that's
And
probably like the best way to categorize it.
well, in that case, you want to get into the specials?
Yeah, we can go into specials. We might as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with his 4 specials real quick here.
Sure.
Um,
Bring them on up.
just feels just feels correct to do the 4 specials first here.
Sure.
Which
So
order do
before
I want to do
so
it? Yeah.
before we start, if people are only familiar with Guilty Gear Strive, the board game, this is my first season 5 lesson, so I need to refresh myself as well. These are specials that they're not ultras, despite having a cost. when you play this and reveal it, in addition to the card that you put down to attack with, you need to spend an additional force. That doesn't have to be from your gauge, but it can be from your gauge. It can be a card from your hand. It's just one extra card you have to spend. So generally, these cards are uh, if they didn't have this extra cost, they would be sort of overpowered, or they would be very very powerful. The extra cost on top of it is kind of a mitigating factor. Is that accurate, Bana?
That is true for most force specials. There's a few like examples where I would say that does not apply. The force cost is there for other purposes.
Right.
Um, but like for Hazama, I would say 2 out of 3 of these would definitely be if you remove the force cost.
They'd
Oh
be they'd
boy,
be
this
pretty crazy.
it'd be pretty crazy. Yeah.
Right. Just a quick bookkeeping note before we start. Please go ahead.
Oh, just go ahead. All right, sure thing.
Yeah.
So I guess we might as well start with Falling Fang here.
Sure.
Um, so like this is a what we would call like a tidal whirl shape, two
Sure.
to
So,
three,
so this
six
is
speed.
this is and it pushes too. So this is actually
Yeah,
very
push it.
similar to Cyrus's title whirl.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
basically just tidal whirl. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a very it's a defensive shape. You
Yep.
can like it's hard to contest at range 3, and it just tends to beat everything if it lands there.
Sure. It's a
Outspeeds the fast ones, and it pushes sweep out so you don't get counterattacked, and
right. So
you're out of
this probably beats every normal in the game at the range it's played at,
correct.
and it gains
Yeah,
advantage on top of it.
correct. So yeah,
Okay.
no, this is a I said it's a defensive shape, but because it has advantage, like you kind of want to play it on offense just because you know uh once again, like you can really make do with the advantage with Hazama. Like you can keep running offense for like all the mix ups he wants to run,
Right.
or like with the advantage, you can refill your hand with the prep action. You did spend 2 cards to play this, so
Right.
if you're playing cards like this all the time, you're going to be out of cards in hand very quickly here.
Right. Um, it also push up to 1. So you even have
Hmm.
so if you stun out the opponent's assault, for example, you're not worrying about beating their sweep. You just let them hang there because
Yeah, you would.
you
Yeah,
might be
unless
happier at
you
3 than
want
at
to be.
4.
Yeah, so like you'll if I stun with this, usually I'm keeping them at range 3 just because then I don't have to spend more resources to get back in.
Okay.
But like, there's definitely always going to be a case of, well, maybe this was not the last card, but like one of the last few cards I had, and I go, well, it's time to back off. I need to prep for a few turns. Might as well push him to range 4.
Sure. Okay. And I mean, I'm also looking. I'm wondering if he has any. Like, I know he has at least one option in Venom Sword that hits on
Yeah.
curve at range 4.
Hmm.
I don't know if he's got none. All of these are 2 or 3. So you're
Yeah.
probably not setting it up for a. That's one difference between him and Cyrus's title world. You're not really trying to set a
Yeah.
range from your opponent. You're actually
Yeah.
probably going positioning negative by doing this.
If you push, yeah, usually it'll be positioning negative.
Okay.
Which is why you don't like. It's why with Hazama you want to hang out at like range 2 or 3. But I guess we'll go on a tangent here. Sometimes it's okay to go positioning negative just because you're on defense. You're not as good. Like you can't use your UA on defense. It's only an initiating thing, right?
Right.
So if like you're like if you end up at range 2 and 3 and you pass back to the opponent, now you could get mixed up.
Right.
If you want to take some time off, like because you're attack, like this is a good defensive shape, so you can use this as a deterrent. But let's say but we've already used this in our example, right? So
Right.
you probably don't have this as a deterrent anymore. You might want to push your opponent out so that they can't. Well, I mean, obviously it depends. If it's a zoner, that's a bad idea. But if they're a
Right.
close range fighter, then yeah, you might as well push them out, make them spend a force to get back in.
Right. So
So
it
it's
gives you some breathing room too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's once again we're talking about things that are laws. We're saying, hey, this is positioning negative if you push, but well, of course there's going to be cases where it's not.
Sure,
So
yeah. Sometimes you're fighting Zangief, and
yeah,
you don't
sometimes.
care about much other than not being at range one sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, correct.
cool. That makes
All
sense.
right. So yeah, this is yeah we've got a fast or like a super fast card to like help with the mix up game.
Sure.
We'll move on to Devouring Fang. This is the mid speed part of the mix up. 1 to 2 6 4 with ignore armor. Um, this is like a focus killing card,
Yeah,
and not much else. Like
yeah.
it
Doesn't
trades.
doesn't stun sweep.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't stun sweep, so you got to be worried about that. Like if you trade with sweep, it's not the end of the world, but you this is a force special.
Right. So
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 like
even
you
though
spent a card.
it's trading evenly, but it's not, economically it's not even.
Yeah, yeah. If you trade with sweep, you've lost that economic war. So
Okay.
it's not a thing you ideally want to deal with. But I mean, this is one of like Hazama's highest damaging moves. It's his highest damaging special, like in general.
So we've got
So
three,
like
4, 6,
yeah, like if we look at Venom
4 and
Sword
3.
and
Okay.
yeah, Hungry Coils, like his damage isn't particularly high. So like
Right.
this kind of like makes up for it. Ideally, you want to try and land this at least once a game. Otherwise, like if you're in the trade, like if you find yourself in a trading game, like you're gonna be losing. So like this is a good way to try and get ahead.
Okay.
Sometimes people just go, okay, I'm just gonna block this mix, and you can just throw this out and
Right.
punish them for it as well. So it's a good tool to have.
So question about sort of how some of these, as we're
Mhm,
talking, how some of these interact with uh Ouroboros.
mhm,
Ignoring for a second some of the economic implications of spending a force and then
correct.
playing a force special. Um, let's just say that for a second this is free. Um,
Mhm.
like playing playing your mix-up game, is that more likely to sometimes just trigger a panic defensive option out of your opponent, like for example block? Because if it is, I feel like, you know I'm at, excuse me, Rising Fang, I'm at range 3. I play my Ouroboros to range 2 and then jam down Devouring Fang because they're likely to block because they're afraid here on the ignore armor thing. I feel like that is a play, but I've never played Hazama. I don't actually know if that's a thing that people tend to do when you put down your mix up.
Um, so panic plays. It's really hard for me to like think about panic plays now. As I said, the average like skill level of Exceed has kind of risen,
Okay.
so feels like people have gotten to learn how to fight Hazama a lot better. I would say moving to range 2 and playing this is not going to like whoops, not going to like. I don't think this is particularly a great winning move here. Um, I mean, if you're like threatening to move to range 2, there's only like so many things you're threatening here.
Right.
Like chiefly, this is like the biggest threat once you move. Well, if you're threatening to move to range 2, so it means like if you do that, people aren't gonna block.
Okay.
Like a better way to like create a panic response would very much be like if you're here and you threaten to move to range 2, like that creates more of an ambiguous situation where people might panic block, because at
Well,
least this way,
so
like you
it
could be
so
threatening, I'm not going to range 2, I might just be playing a grasp or something,
grasp or
right?
something. Okay. So I need to remember that you're also threatening what you would be playing if you stayed in place. And if I stayed in place over here, there's actually quite a few things in my kit.
Mhm,
This all this stuff hits at range 3,
mhm.
and if I'm specifically going to range 2, yeah, I'd need to play the one thing I have that is only range 2 and isn't
Yeah,
range
yeah,
3 anymore. Okay, but
yeah, like
and there's more things that I get by moving from range 1 to range 2 than I would get from moving from range 3 to range 2. Is that correct? So my
Yeah,
opponent would
that is yeah.
they'd have to respect more of
Yeah,
my
the
mix up.
point of the panic response is you want to like overwhelm them with options. Another way, yeah, like moving to range 2 means like you're creating a what's it called? Like you're improving the or you're decreasing the range of like options that are really threatening. Like, you can still play Falling Fang at range 2, but it's less good there because if
Right.
my opponent plays sweep now, like I can push them out, but it doesn't push them far enough out
Right.
where like it's actually gonna like hurt. So like if by moving to range 2, I haven't created a new threat. I
You've
mean the
actually
new
tur-
threat
you
is
you yeah,
Devouring Fang, right? Yeah.
you've actually turned off some of your threats by making your on curve options at
hmm
3 or above curve options at 3 less powerful. So this
hmm
becomes more telegraphed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it becomes more telegraphed. So
Gotcha.
like if you want like a better if you want to play the information game, it's all about knowing what you're telegraphing. And this is something that there's a million combinations of what you could be doing. So
Right.
we're not going to go over it all. And this is something you will learn with time. But like you saying, okay, we're going to range 2, or at least, we could even threaten range 2. Like if you want to do something like go to range 2, like to play this, well, sometimes you're in a situation like, let's say worst case scenario, you just don't really have anything other better plays, so you're just going in a range 2 to play Devouring Fang.
Right.
Um, the better like the better way to create the panic response is to threaten to go to range 2 to play this, and like play something else like your Falling Fang instead at
I
range
see.
3,
Okay, so so
because then
so
like
this is I should be treating this card as kind of the equivalent of like anybody who has a really really scary option that your
mhm.
opponent is trying to play around and then you beat the thing that they're using to try to play around it.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Okay.
this is, it's it kind of functions like a command grab if you think about it. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't ignore guard, but it ignores armor, and it's like a lot of damage. So you really don't want to get hit by this.
Okay. And they'll play to avoid it because it's the scary thing. I can get off a I mean, Falling Fang again, probably not the best example because it would probably work just fine without the bluff.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'm trying to get a cross in particular out of my opponent or something,
hmm
so I play
hmm
something like that.
Yeah,
Okay, but
that's kind of the way I want to think about it.
gotcha. Okay, sorry for the interruption.
No, that's all right.
And we were talking about, excuse me, Ryu, talking about devouring, rising, falling.
Yeah. So like, we talked about Devouring Fang at range 2. It's also like really good at range 1. Like sure it has no guard, so they might play a fast and stun you out. But I
Right.
mean, at least it plays into the angle of like I can try and like get under your slow is kind of the
Sure.
idea with that, right? So
And if anything, I mean, my opponent might be a little bit more reticent to play focus if I'm at range 2 because spike exists.
mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm playing at range 1, they might be more comfortable playing that card.
Yeah.
Um and as a trade as a trade off to that, it loses to grasp and whatever other
Mhm.
range 1's fast options they have.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we've covered most of the use cases for Devouring Fang. Was there any other questions you had with that
Nope.
before we move on?
Nope.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to what is probably like Hazama's worst move, which is weird because it's a force
It's a
special.
force
It's
special.
Rising
Yeah.
Fang here. Yeah. Rising Fang is so very weird shape. I almost want to call it an inverse mid speed. Um, like it loses to other mid speeds. It loses to slows because it's got the if you initiate or if you or like a hit, you lose all armor.
Right.
So like you usually trade down with that. and but like, and it also doesn't have like enough guard to like defend against opponent initiating with sweep. So you just get stunned out if you defend with it, and they play a slow there. So
Right.
it's this weird shape where like if you initiate with it, it very much it's a very good trade against a lot of fast pokes there. Like, if it's 4
Right.
armor, like you're not
Take
gonna take any damage to
take zero
grasp.
from assault, take zero from
Yeah.
grasp. Okay.
Yeah, so it's meant to be a fast killer.
Okay.
But it's an expensive fast killer that like takes a lot of risks. So it's like, well, and it's a 4 special, right? So like
Right.
if I'm playing this at like say range 1 and I go, okay, well, I want to kill their or I want to like really trade up against grasp. You could just play grasp and then you don't have to spend the extra force. Your opponent doesn't get gauge from hitting you. So, I find like the use cases of this card kind of not amazing.
Right.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
I'm
so
I'm noticing I don't think this actually is going to change the evaluation too much on this card,
mhm,
but I noticed that the lose all armor is a hit effect. So
mhm.
like in I guess in situations like this is actually a like kind of a decent stand-in for block in
Yeah,
some
like at least
situations.
it does give Hazama a source of armor where yeah, if you really have nothing, you can use it.
Yeah.
But it's a like if you're not hitting with this is like yeah, like what is it? Block has 2 armor as well, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to spend a force for it, and for every like force you spend into it, you get more armor. This one, it's
It's like
you spend the card and a force for the privilege of 2 armor. So
yeah,
like
for
as a
it
block stand-in, it's not very amazing either.
it's not great, right? And
Yeah.
the specific area that would be relevant would be if you were away from range 3, right? If you were zoned out by
Yeah.
somebody and maybe, you're trying to make up ground in a projectile war.
Yeah.
I'm looking really hard for more use cases, and you're right that I'm not finding one off the top of my head. So it might be
Yeah.
that this card just doesn't have the juice.
Yeah. I personally don't think it does. It there will be times where you kind of have to play this. You just don't really have any other options, but you're not really happy about it.
Okay.
If you EX this though, suddenly its use cases get a little better. Just because then the extra armor and guard from just naturally EXing puts the defenses to actually a reasonable stat line.
Right.
Um, I actually had what was it? I had a game where my opponent initiated with EX sweep, and I responded with this as an EX. It's really bad for the economy because I had to spend a
It's free
force. I
cards.
spent
Yeah.
another card for the for the EX, spend a card in hand, and then I get the random discard. But like it tanked that EX sweep, and that was a lot of I had 3 armor out of it, so
Yeah.
it really mitigated a lot of damage. So like it's all like it gets I kind of like it's actually an all right defensive card with the EX. I've also like tanked Noel's ignore guard card with an EX version of this.
Right.
So like it's
But you
not
kind
like if it happens, it happens. Like it's not something you want to go, ah yes, this is a good EX card. No, it's more like it becomes playable once you EX it.
sure. And we are pretty clearly kind of looking specifically for use cases like
Hmm.
notably we didn't have to think super hard to find a reason to play Falling Fang.
Yeah.
Like the length of this conversation is kind of indicating that this card is probably not up to snuff.
Hmm.
Um, one other thing that I'm noticing now that we're talking about force specials, uh, and for people who are new to season 5 and season 4, where these are more prevalent, uh, this also has some interactions with Hazama's wild swings. Correct? That if just like with
Correct.
an
Yeah.
ultra, if I wild swing this off the top of the deck and it is a force special, I can choose to not play it and I invalidate it instead. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess this is probably an okay time to talk about it. Is Hazama a character who has particularly good wild swings because of these awesome uh because of the this many force specials.
Yeah, so his I wouldn't say it's awesome. It's more like he gets more consistent wild swings
Okay.
because like yeah, because he can, these and like these attacks answer certain things. So if you wild swing into him and you go, "Oh, it doesn't answer the problem. I can just try again."
Right.
So there are lots of games where like, well, not lots of games, but I've played a bunch of games where I've been wild swinging and I go, oh, well, let me just invalidate through like three cards, and oh, there's the answer I want. Um, so it gives like Hazama a bit of a buffer for his defense because yeah, you can conserve resources from hand to spend for like UA and stuff by wild swinging, and you know you can option select your way into something if you're lucky,
Sure.
which is a higher odd than say like any other character without a force special.
Right.
You can also like if you're not sure what to do with Hazama, you can also just initiate with a wild swing and
And it
see
might
where the deck takes you as well.
and there's a decent chance it'll work.
Yeah, there's a decent chance it'll work in some capacity. And like wild swinging also means you conserve cards in hand, so you can use your UA more.
Okay. All right. So
All
that's
right.
the four specials.
Yeah.
Cool.
We
What else
might
we
as
got down
well
here?
move on to his non-force specials now, just to round everything out.
Sure.
Um, these, yeah, these cards are pretty straightforward. I guess we'll start with Hungry Coils real quick here. This is it's another assault like, so it's another poke for your mix up here.
Yep.
Hungry Coils is I would call it kind of, I don't want to call it bad. I'll call it kind of niche. Um, it's it's it gives advantage like assault, and it's another like fast card, so like you appreciate it, but the damage is a little lower, and with pull 4, it means it kind of loses to things that assault would normally beat. Like say if your opponent for whatever reason wild swung a spike, or they
Right.
just were crazy and decided to defend with a spike, you'll be sad about that because
Sure.
well, assault would have beaten that, but this one doesn't like, it doesn't pull anyone into a safe range. Like if anyone played a counterattack, you're getting hit back.
Right. And
Um,
obviously you can pull past yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you could
yeah.
so if you're pulling, they're gonna wind up one, two, three, four. If you pull
Yep.
from two, you'll set range three or you'll set range two.
Hmm.
So you're at the very least you're maintaining a range that you like by playing this.
Yeah, yeah. At the very least, you're doing that, which gives this like, I don't want to say an edge over assault, but it definitely does give it merit over assault in that regard. Like
Okay.
it is positioning positive compared to assault.
Okay.
You also get random discard. So if you actually like win the strike with this because they played, their own assault to like check a mid speed or something, you're in a rare case where Hazama is winning the economy war. So it's pretty good in that regard. So yeah, like this is a card like you need. Um, if this were any other character, they would probably consider this like a bad card, but it works just fine on Hazama here.
Okay.
Um, I guess yeah, you could also like, I don't know, pull people into the corner as well if you want to do that.
Sure.
For anyone who's like a runaway character, if you can manage that, that also is a edge case. Then we can move on to Venom Sword, unless you have anything else you noticed about
Nope.
Hungry Coils One Animation. Sure.
Nope. Venom sword
Venom
works.
Sword. Yeah, it's here we have a dual purpose card. It's if we're at range 4, it's a on curve poke. Um, and draws a card. So like round start, you can play this, get some gauge, get a card to replace itself. It's a pretty low commitment move.
Yep. And this kind of forms
Um,
the natural mix up with dive, right? That
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
characters tend to have. This is sort of the closest thing I got to a projectile.
yeah. You have the move, don't move mix up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So you got a move, don't move. You can even threaten move, don't move at like range 3 because this will pushes people out to range 4 on hit.
Okay.
So it's like, and because I say that, we might as well actually go to like you know the real meat of this card. It acts as a mid speed as well.
Hmm.
Maybe not in the corner here. Let's change positions real quick. Let's do
Sure.
that. Because I mean, if you hit with this and they played sweep or something, like you are the happiest man in the world. They are all the way over there.
Right. Okay.
But it
And
doesn't it
and
doesn't beat focus. So,
but this does.
but you have this
So
to beat focus.
yeah. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
So
you know
you
you
know
don't
how I
have
said this guy has knives and he's a very precise character.
yeah.
You have you have ways to beat a thing, but they don't really beat both sides of the slow. Like
Sure.
you have to
He
pick
doesn't
and
have
choose there.
spinning pile driver, but he has something that is some like
No.
he can do a similar effect spread over two cards. He can beat both sides of the slow
Correct.
counterattack kind of paradigm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that really covers specials here. Yeah. Like as for, how these interact with UA, I mean, really I don't want to say like they specifically change anything, you just it's all a matter of like figuring out what you want to threaten, what you want to beat. Um, like this is a good, if you go to range 1 to threaten, I guess threaten devouring fang and your opponent's going to play their sweep, you can play that, but
Right.
um
So,
and like
but
I said,
and
it's
obviously all these things are going to change as your opponent's options go down, as you get hand information,
yeah,
as you so this is a situation where like he has a lot of fairly purpose built cards and an
yeah,
ability to very quickly and unreactively get himself into a situation where he can play the card. So
yeah,
that means that he sort of needs to be really paying attention to what his opponents are dropping and paying attention to what he's specifically trying to beat because these cards don't just beat everything. They're not do everything
no.
tools.
No, they're not. They surgically kill one thing, so you got to make sure like your opponent has that or like has copies of that, and it feels reasonable that they would play those things.
Right. Okay.
Um, like that is going to be the crux of this character. Your tools are going to be very specific, and you want to mix them in such a way that your opponent picks the wrong option on defense so that you can beat them.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I just want to say there is the inverse of that. As like as your mix up is going to change as your opponent's options decrease and you get a better handle on the information that they're bleeding. The same applies for you. It might even apply more towards yourself because you're going to be spending on your force specials on your UA. You're going to be bleeding information probably a little harder than your opponent.
Right.
So they'll know what you have left. So you got to be careful with what you're going to play. Like I said earlier, if you don't have a spike at range 3, then you're not threatening them with anything. So
Yeah.
got to be
Assault isn't
careful about
scary
how you
anymore.
yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
like be careful like how you spend these. Just because if you're out of falling fangs, people can assault like it from range 3 and be reasonably like or reasonably assume it's gonna work on you, right? So
Yeah.
all right. All right. That goes over a lot of like attacks here. Might Did you want to go over like ultras here? Or do you want to go over some of the boost kit before we move on?
Let's talk about boosts for a second, unless you feel like
Hmm.
there's a better time to talk about boosts.
I think boosts make sense. Like, there is one boost I really want to talk about here because it makes sense in context. So we might as well move on to special boosts. It makes more sense to do that.
Sure.
Um, all right, we'll start with this one here. Was it Serpent's Benediction here? This this boost here, I don't want to say it does it all, but it's very important. It's, you see it says force cost reduced by 1.
Yeah.
So you can double dip into this boost. You can, and normally you kind of want to. Uh with Hazama, like if say you wanted to start off, you know, you're at start a round and you go, I don't have my Venom sword. I just want to get in, and my assault like is my falling fang or something.
Right.
That's like 3 cards you gotta spend on this strike. You gotta spend a card to set down your Ouroboros. Gotta spend a force to play this attack, and attack the attack itself. It's very
Yeah.
expensive strike.
Yeah.
With this, hey, I mean, this is the equivalent of spending a force because I just dropped it.
Right.
But I play my Ouroboros, and I don't have to pay for this. I get a discount.
So, okay. So, just to make sure that I'm reading this right, your costs
Hmm.
are reduced by 1. I play my
Hmm.
Ouroboros. That is a force cost. That does not cost me a
Correct.
force. Then I on the same turn in the same strike, I play an attack. It's a force special.
Yeah.
That has a force cost. It's discounted as well. It's 2 separate costs and they are both discounted by 1.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that's a much bigger deal then. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other situations where this might apply? So block, for example, I get 1 free force. I don't get 2 or 3. Like that's the same cost twice. What
Yeah.
about this? It can't work on this. Well, actually, I may strike. Can I change cards with more
Yeah.
efficiency?
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
move?
So
All that stuff
yeah.
works.
You know what? Yeah. Yeah. I'll actually, like, usually you want to like actually use the strike ability on this.
Sure.
So let's actually like move on to the boost on this one, just because it's gonna do what you're
Perfect.
asking about.
Okay.
Like this one, yeah, force
Yep.
cost reduced by 1. A movement affect's a movement effect. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just want to move with Hazama.
Just reposition.
But
Sure.
yeah, like the force cost reduced by 1. Yeah, no, if you have this boost and the opponent is not eager to get rid of it, like, hey, Ryu's on the board. I'm Hazama. I play this boost. I'm Ryu now.
Okay.
Let me
Okay.
use your UA real quick. I'm gonna move 1 for 0 and draw a card.
Gotcha. Good to know. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay. And so I'm sorry to have jumped ahead. So back on Serpent's
no, that's all
Benediction really
right.
quick.
These are tangentially related, so it makes sense to
Totally.
talk about them both
Yeah.
now. So
So, but it felt like there was a reason that you were starting with this one in particular, though. So you have the Yume strike, which I mean, action
yep.
compression is always cool. You were talking about the
Mhm.
use case of being able to, uh, all in one turn, go to range 3, play your attack for almost for free. You get a lot out of it. There's also
Mhm.
this: the opponent sets their card first.
Yep.
I assume that means
So
I still win speed ties and stuff.
correct. Yeah, this is essentially Kuma's fake out.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So like I described the floor on this, which was like the reduction of your force costs by like playing your Ouroboros and a force special in 1 turn. That's like
Right.
the floor. Like the ceiling on this is because your opponent has to like commit to their strike first before they even know if you're setting this.
Oh, I
Like
see. Okay.
it further obfuscates a mix up. So like if you're here, or actually, maybe we'll just go range 2 just because it is where like the band is the most. impressive. Yeah, you play this boost. All right. You have to defend. You don't know if I'm staying here, if I'm going here, or if I'm going here. Like
Right.
that four-way mix-up is now like what,
A lot more
like an
ways.
eight-way mix-up? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so they have to account for the possibility of spending an Ouroboros if you wanted to. Obviously, you
hmm
would not fake an Ouroboros at that point because they've already put their card down.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's no point. Yeah.
right. But they also like if they set an EX attack or if they declare their you're fighting fight and they declare their strike first or something like they have to do all of their
hmm
stuff first. You know everything that they're doing before you put your card down before you spend your Ouroboros, anything like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So works just like Akuma's fake out. You play it and you can like fish for information.
Okay. And
But
and
yeah,
it, and it it being on a not particularly impressive special means that this boost probably sees a lot of play.
yeah. I mean, usually I'll be boosting this. But I mean, like, what was it? The attack's like fine too.
Sure.
I guess I should have mentioned like during the attack section. I completely forgot. This gains advantage and keeps you in like mix up range. It's really good for advantage chaining.
Yep.
So once again, a lot of Hazama's tools are all surgical and deliberate. So like you gotta determine what you want to be doing with your cards rather
Right.
than trying to crutch on going, oh yes, this will just work.
Totally.
Right. Like, this boost is also like you'll play it, but like you don't always have to play it. Sometimes you don't need to, or like you don't have the force specials in hand. So like the value of this goes down.
Okay.
Sometimes like if you're Sometimes you'll just use fake out without the full value, like you just play this and you're gonna play a normal, but you just want to really confuse the opponent because you really want to make sure the mix up lands.
Yep.
But you know, you can kind of do that without this card, just with your UA, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's all a
Right.
matter of like which you got to like determine. Like with Ryu, maybe you play your Ouroboros and you're like, well, I really want to make sure my Falling Fang hits. I have two ways to do it. I can just use my if you're playing Falling Fang, it's probably more efficient to use this. So let's say it's Assault instead. This will be Assault real quick. I just want to make sure my Assault hits, so I'm gonna back away to you know prevent the grasp counter poke. But Ryu has a DP, so like backing off doesn't actually make you any safer, right?
Right.
So you might, if you want to go, well, you have a choice. You can spend a force to just try and confuse them with your Ouroboros, or you can use this boost and like try and further confuse them. It's like the same amount of it's the same amount of force essentially either way. This one's I'll just gives you a bit more more information obfuscation on your end while fishing for their information. So you got to value like if you're worried about his DP here, then yeah, you might want to play this. If you decide no, I'd rather save this for later and I'll
Right.
take the risk on the DP, then you just go for your UA
Right.
instead,
I
right?
mean, sometimes you would want to play this card as part of your mix-up, and you're not in a position to play
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
find a different way to obfuscate your mix-up. That makes total sense. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. And we already sort of covered
Yeah.
the Serpent's Redemption.
Yeah, it's the reason I started with this is because it's a boost that relates to strikes because it has now strike on it.
Yep.
Um, which is why I wanted to start with it. Yeah, the next tangential thing is this one where it has a similar line of text. He reduces force cost, doesn't cause a strike, but it just force efficient movement. Hazama likes force efficient movement. Sometimes people just go, I don't want to be
Right.
part of the mix up. I'm going to run away. So you're like, well, I don't want to spend a million cards in hand to close range because now I'll have less cards to bully you with. So you can use like a boost like this
But chase him down.
to chase them down. Like it doesn't or you can chase them down. Maybe you're in the corner, and if you're in the corner, your mix isn't as good, so you can uncorner yourself. Like there's nothing really too special about this. Like anything you can say about movement boost, you can say about this card.
Right.
Um,
He just also
I guess
gets that force efficient
yeah,
expenditure.
yeah, you get better force expenditure. Like the ideal case is to try and boost this when you can make use of the force expenditure. Like if the opponent insists on like hugging you at range one, you could play this, and then suddenly you've built some space, and you can play your falling fang at this, or threaten falling fang at a
Right.
reduced cost at this range, right?
Oh,
Um,
because there isn't a strike rider on that boost, you have no guarantee that you'll be able to uh, pay off your
yeah,
force
that is
cost by
correct.
using your Ouroboros. So make sure you have a force special in hand. Make sure that you could make use of that. Otherwise, what is keeping them from just punching you? Because this boost
I
doesn't.
mean,
Other,
yeah, that
yeah,
is yeah, that is the problem with that boost, right? Is no one wants you to just keep having force efficiency, right? So like
totally.
once you've played this, there's a good chance your opponent's going to try and clear it. So you want to I don't want to say you want to make sure. There's going to be times where you just use this for force efficient movement and you just have to give up
Yeah,
the extra value on it just cuz you're in that position, right? But if you're in the ideal state of, well, if I'm going to like play this, I'll try and get as much value out of it as possible. So, like I said with the whole move back, play this, or like threaten this,
yeah,
then you're like at least doing that because no one wants like no one wants to be on the receiving end of this, and if it's free, then Hazama's very enticed to just if you decide, oh, he moved, I'll just prep, then Hazama goes, well, thanks for the free
the free
UA
Ouroboros.
activation, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, you don't want to count on this sticking around. So you got like I said, repeating myself, there's gonna you can't count on this being around. So you want to be prepared to try and cash in on the force discount if you can.
Yep.
But that's not always the case, and sometimes you just have to surrender the idea that you can even like get any extra value out of it at all. So.
Sure. Okay. No, that makes total sense.
Alright, yeah,
Right.
so, I mean,
So
that's that boost. I
that's
guess we
those
might as
two.
well move on to another movement boost since we're talking about movement. We've got the boost on Falling Fang Shadow Serpent. Once again, it's an advanced retreat. This time you can choose one or two, but, like, usually you're picking two with this just because
Yep.
you don't really get a lot of value of just advancing or retreating. One is Hazama, you want to make every point of force count,
Yep.
and it refunds itself as a boost there, so it's pretty economically efficient. This is a boost I used to never use because it's attached to Falling Fang, and
Right.
that's like one of his most consistent moves and can win. Once again, as the level of Exceed rises, people have learned how to play around Falling Fang. So like I've been finding this boost has become more useful just because people usually deliberately move into positions where Falling Fang's not as good.
Right. Right. Okay,
Um,
that's true. And also, I mean, like it seems like he's quite difficult to zone with some of these. Between like he's got a decent amount of force efficient movement, but he also needs to not be zoned because none of his stuff works outside of range 4. So
yeah, yeah.
sometimes just getting back into on your opponent is something that you need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, like if you're fighting new or someone, chances are like you're not gonna get too much value out of this, so you might as well boost it.
totally.
Unless news grasp are down, in which case you're very happy to have this around. But
Right,
it's all about that information bleed. You gotta weigh your options. Azama's not like I said, he a lot of his stuff is specific. You can't just there's no the closest thing he has to a card that you kind of hold is Falling Fang, just because it's so good. But like I said, in recent years, I've been finding that's become less and less a rule, just because people have learned to fight against it. So
right. And then the draw one on this boost, given how force hungry he is, I'm sure that that's incredibly important too.
it's a nice bonus. Like
Yeah.
it's just a force efficient boost.
Yep.
Doesn't move as far as like cross or assault, but sometimes like you don't have to run or backstep the full amount, in which case you prefer to have like a card draw,
Yeah.
right? If you're only gonna like run two, like not the full value, right? So
Right.
not
Makes
not
sense.
much else to say about the boost. You play it when you need it. Otherwise, just don't.
Yep.
Um.
Speaking of card draw,
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll move on to Bloody Fang on Devouring Fang here. This is another one of these boosts that you play, and then the opponent goes, "I don't want you to have that. I'm striking into you." So it's kind of a difficult boost to play. It's kind of hard to counter stun the opponent.
right? They better
Well,
have a good. They have
if
a
they're deliberately like if they're trying to avoid the stun, then they're trying to like it's hard to stun an opponent who's deliberately trying to avoid that, right?
sure.
Um, like you know, this is a it's got like a weird sort of property to it, I guess I would say. Like you kind of want to play it if you play it like range 2 or 3 where like mix up is possible. Um you've passed turn back to the opponent and they get to dictate the terms of the mix up, right?
Right.
So it kind of feels risky to play in those spots, right? Like you could get lucky and flip the coin right and then you're happy you drew a bunch of cards, but the odds are not in your favor. If
Right.
you
But
play it at range 1 where you go, well, the chances of hitting are higher, but my opponent could just play a slow and then
yeah, you're never going to stun
yeah,
focus without. I mean, unless
yeah,
you super bank hard on uh devouring fang, the card that you just
yeah.
played.
It's
Wait,
on the yeah, like
right.
it's stapled to the card that has the most likely
The most
like
stunning
outcome of
potential.
stunning. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
so there's a huge opportunity cost with that.
Sure.
So
Better
this yeah this
have
is
an EX in play or something that
yeah.
makes you think that there's a good reason that you can stun them. I mean, maybe you've got
Hmm.
this one of these crazy ultras ready to go or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You kind of do that. Like this boost in particular, it's like yeah, the best way to really use it is kind of just as a way to like entice the opponent to strike into you.
Hmm.
Hazama's like not the best at doing that, but that's kind of like what happens.
Right.
You
Maybe
taxi meta this stuff, you play this boost, and you go, all right, strike into
hit
me,
me.
so that
Right. Maybe if you've already put down fierce or something, like this
yeah,
could
yeah,
be
like
like a second boost in a boost war to make them
yeah,
uh try to end it when you think you have an advantage.
yeah, like yeah, it's definitely you definitely want to like if you want the effect to go off, yeah, you usually play it as the second boost, like on top of a fierce or a light or something.
Okay.
Um, most of the time, like I just find it at least has a draw one, so like it replaces itself. Sometimes I'm just in a situation where I go, well, I just want to filter a couple cards. I might as well just boost this.
Right.
It's like prep digs you a little. Well, prep it digs is far as prep does because it draws one and you draw into end of turn. You're not as card efficient because you spent a card to do that.
Right.
But if you have like or you're getting close to a full grip, like maybe you don't mind using that as a change cards. Like this is the best way to treat this is as like a change cards, and if the effect goes off, the effect goes off, and you're kind of happy.
Okay.
Um, it's just that you said maybe we can improve the chances of this going off by like boost warring. You
Right.
might have noticed so far, out
Yeah.
of
No.
like the four boosts we've
No
looked at, no
stats.
stats at all.
Yeah.
Hazama is not very good at a boost war, so getting into a boost war with this, or like trying to like win a boost war and then playing this, not a very
Right. Doesn't
reasonable
probably.
thing to
Yeah.
assume.
Probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, I find the most realistic use of this is you change cards one using this just so you can dig, find some options you're looking for, and just if it works, it works.
Okay.
But chances are it's not going to. So,
Right. All right. That makes sense.
all right. We said Hazama has no stats. This boost here, Serpent or Vengeful Viper, doesn't have stats on it, but it can. So it's got the hit, play and sustain a continuous boost from the top of your discard. That's like the only way it's a funky way to get stats. It requires you to have played stats already or dropped stats,
Right.
but you have a bit of way to manipulate this. You can play this boost, and then you can play something like your force special, and then go.
Oh, and then
I mean, like the most.
you discard it or something.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
discard it. Yeah. Like this is the like with Falling Fang, it's the most like realistic to do just because it's low risk.
And it's fast, so and it's
It's
probably going to hit.
fast. Like if you boost that and you have this, you're like, well, it's nice to have. It'd be nice to have Grasp. You get 2 bites at Fierce with this, so
Right. Okay.
this jumps up to 5 power, and you can threaten 2 more power in the next one. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
because
it's sustain.
the
Yeah, no,
the
it's
hit
hit with
the
+2 power.
the hit effect happens before damage occurs. So you wouldn't get quite as much out of
Correct.
a speed boost, for example, but you would get some power and then you would still have power into the next turn.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
If like Fierce is the best thing to get off of this.
Okay.
I guess technically defends like maybe the next best one, like in
Right.
terms of like getting extra value, but like you're usually not a player who wants to, or a character who wants to play defend a lot. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes certain cards more safe, but like you tend to not want to trade with Hazama. You kind of just want to win strikes and
Right.
lose strikes. So like,
Is there any benefit to getting uh like Serpent's Benediction or something like that? Um for more force cost reduction?
um, so it's like all right, like you do it if you have like nothing else, right? Then
Mhm.
you can you can use that force cost for or reduction for other things when you pass. But you know like just like the speed boost you mentioned, you're not getting a benefit when you strike with it, right? You spent all your force for
Right, right,
the
right,
for that
right.
strike to happen. So
Okay.
like the best you'll get is, some discount on the next one. So it's not like ideal. Once again, your hand might be sculpted in a way where you go, I can take advantage of that force discount, but usually, like I said, Hazama doesn't have stats on his boost. This is a rare way for him to actually get some. So you usually want to prioritize a stat with this. And like I
Okay.
said, Fierce especially because you actually get 2 bites of the apple compared to everything else he has. So
Right. That makes sense. Okay, cool. So that's the special boost kit then.
mhm.
Uh, do we want to talk about ultras?
Yeah, we might as well talk about ultras.
Yeah.
Ultras, well, we might as well put
Yeah,
his
let's get
Astral in
everything.
here.
Yeah, the rest of the cards.
Rest of the cards. Like Hazama, he's for we've established he's force hungry between, using UA, between using like his force specials and all of that. You'll be like tapping into your gauge occasionally just to fund your game plan.
Yeah,
So like getting to these, I mean, you'll usually like if you're a good Hazama player, you'll budget things appropriately such that you should be able to play at least one of these tools. Um, yeah, usually at least one, maybe even two if you can leverage things like yeah, I had a game where I exceeded and I was able to leverage exceed, build a few more gauge, and then I could have enough for an ultra there. But that's not something you want to count on to happen. It's probably like the best rule of thumb is to go. You can afford one of these,
okay,
and so you want to. I won't say you want to know what you want to do in advance, but like you got to pick and choose and determine in the matchup what's going to be the most value there.
right.
I guess we might as well start with standard ultras here. We have we'll start with eternal coils here. Um, this is probably the it's 3 gauge, so it's a little easier to get to than say his exceed mode or serpent's infernal rapture,
Right.
but it is only 3 power. You can make it a lot better than that,
But it's
but you
really
gotta spend more
expensive.
force to do. Yeah, it's really expensive.
Yeah,
So, like, the power to force ratio on this card's not particularly great. It's why I'm not particularly fond of this card,
right.
but, if you talk to someone like Reggie, who occasionally enjoys his he likes this card just because this even though, like, the power ratio is not great, it does basically read you win the strike.
Sure. And sometimes you need a hit for 8. Like, what if the opponent has 7 life left? Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, I
definitely times
mean,
when I would be very happy to convert force into damage
yeah, like,
without giving
if
them the chance to deal with it.
yeah, yeah, like, if you're in a situation where, yeah, you have enough force in hand and you can just kill the opponent, yeah, you for sure can play this. But more realistically, you're usually spending 1 or 2 force just so that you can get the, pull like, you can pull 8 into a spot that's safe.
Right.
Like, if I'm in the corner and I played this and my opponent played well, corner is not a good idea because you just pull them into the corner. Let's say 1 away from the corner.
And so
You
they'd have
know,
to be like here.
yeah, they'd be here. Yeah, if you
So it
pull
hits.
8, unsafe. Well, we'll just pull them 8 again way over here, right?
Right.
So, like,
I
that's
I
usually the most realistic option.
okay, so you set a huge range afterward, but you've cleanly won the strike probably.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do like the visual also. I just want to point out
Yeah.
of
No, that
the
was intentional. That
that's very
was
fun. That's very funny to me. I like that a lot. Okay, so
yeah. He's slamming you in the corner back and forth.
yeah,
If you stun the opponent, you don't even have to just pull them all the way out. You can just pull them back in and
right, corner them or something.
like you yeah. So you have a lot of control with this, but like I said, it's it's just doesn't do a lot of damage for the amount of like force you got to expend into it.
Right,
And one of the things about Hazama we've established is no stats on boost. His attacks, other than like say Devouring Fang, kind of lower on the power scale there. So
right.
this, like you can win with this. Doesn't really solve his problems, I find.
Yeah,
Compared to say, we move on to the next one, Serpent's Infernal Rapture. We have
this is just
a
Metsu
4 gauge
Shuriken.
card. Yeah, yeah, it's Metsu Shoryu, but all the time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
godlike.
that's a really good point. That's kind of crazy. Okay, that's a good card.
Yeah, like, the weakness with Metsu Shoryu is, you hold it up and your opponent goes, "Well, you've got 4 gauge Ryu. I'm never gonna stand at range 1. Why would or attack you at range 1. Why would I do that?
Right.
I wanna get Mitsu Shoryu'd." And then you go, "Well, I kinda wanna kill you with this Metsu Shoryu, but
Yep. I've had that problem
my
a lot
opponent
playing with
refuses."
Ryu.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This doesn't have that problem. If your opponent refuses to, stand at range 1 because they don't wanna get kicked on defense, but you go, I just wanna kick you. You can do it on offense, and,
Yeah. You
they
just
can't do
Ouroboros
much
into
about it.
them and then hit them for 7.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I like this Ultra a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and, it just has printed 7 power, so, I said the problems with Eternal Coils is the force to power ratio is not very good. Opposite with this one, it's got a pretty good ratio for damage. And you know what? Like Hazama has low damage. This helps make up the difference.
Right.
Yeah, but 4 gauge is a tall ask. So a lot of the times I'll try to play for 4 gauge with Hazama, but
Yeah,
depending on like how the game goes, sometimes you just have to assume, okay, maybe this is a game where this is not going to happen.
right.
So
And
I got to shift gears.
I've noticed that he has a fair amount of card draw scattered around his kit.
Hmm.
0 gauge generation. Like his gauge is
Yeah,
coming from fairly consistent attack shapes that are probably going to hit. And that
yeah,
means that you better be hitting, and that means that you might not have enough to do much with all of that gauge.
yeah,
So okay, so
yeah,
keeping in mind that he doesn't have a super great way to get gauge freely
yeah.
when we're evaluating this stuff.
That's why I said, you budget for one ultra or one over or
One
exceed
overdrive,
activation. Like
right?
you can't really expect to be able to land 2 snake kicks in one game. As much as Hazama would love to do that,
It's probably not going to
it's not
happen.
very realistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we want to talk
Might
about
as well.
the boost on this first, or we want to
Yeah,
keep
we
going
might as well
with
talk
attacks?
about the boosts as we just round out like the full kit before we move on to his exceed mode here.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll work backwards with this one. We have actually no, we'll go back to Eternal Coils. We'll go to his Tazama's most famous boost. He asks if you're having fun.
Yep.
Yeah, spend 5 force. Your opponent discards that many cards at random strike. Um, this is a powerful but kind of force inefficient boost. Like, usually people will complain about this card just because it feels so bad to be on the receiving end of.
Right. But you're
You're
spending
like
an.
sitting on a
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. You're sitting. If you're the opponent and you're sitting on like your full grip, you're cackling away as you go, ah, yes, I have all these great cards in hand that I'm going to dunk Hazama with. And then he plays having fun yet and he tears it all away.
Yeah.
Like it just feels awful. Usually like Hazama will like try to have like some cards left over after an activation of this so that he can start like wailing on you while your shields are down.
Right.
So like it feels extra bad. But you have to spend force on this card, and like you've essentially spent 2 extra force on top of it because you've pitched the ultra for it.
Yeah.
So like Hazama has to have like a lot of like cards over you to really make full use out of this.
And he's probably, if he
Um,
has that much force advantage, he's probably kind of in a very good position anyway.
yeah, he tends to be.
Yeah.
So like you know the what was I gonna say? All right, the you feel tempted to like just play this whenever you can, just because it's like I said, it does so much mental damage to the opponent. It just feels so good to like rip cards out of your opponent's hand.
Right.
Um, but like the real value of having fun yet is more you want to rip answer cards out of your opponent's hand. Like you feel that they're sitting on a card that you're having trouble dealing with. Like say, I don't know, like you don't have your spike and your opponent's just sitting on a sweep or something,
Yeah,
and you just don't want to deal with that. Like you just play this to rip it out, like really just remove. Oh yeah, like I said, you just want to tear down their shields with this. Or like the other method of using this card is it's very good against characters that are trying to set up something specific. Um, Hazama was considered a season two killer back when season
I
two was in
see.
rotation, just
Yeah,
because the threat of having fun yet meant a lot of characters that needed transforms specifically to get their game plan going, they just couldn't like sit there and sculpt the hand where they go, ah, yes, I'll guarantee this transform, because then Hazama goes, well, those are some nice cards you got in your hand. Sure, would be a shame if something were to happen to it.
right.
So
Okay.
like those are like the two things you want to keep in mind when using this. If like bad Hazama players just throw this out willy nilly, you kind of want to be smart with it, just because you are hurting yourself almost as equally as you are your opponent.
Right.
Um, of course, like if you're yeah, like if you can throw this out when you're ahead on force and really put the screws on the opponent, like it's kind of win more, but like that's fine. You might as well just choke all life out of the opponent. Like if you won like three strikes in a row, Hazama's damage isn't that high, so it's not like they were probably
Like
two down on
like
life.
like backbreaking strikes. Sure.
Yeah, they're not back breaking, so your opponent has a chance to like get back with a few good time strikes. So like then you could like spend the 3 gauge you earned. You'll be because you'll be 3 force up on the opponent at that point, and then play this and really like choke any hope out of your opponent on making a comeback there. So that's like I would say, yeah, those are like the three ways you use this.
Okay.
You leverage, yeah, you either disrupt the yeah, well, I mean, I guess the first two I described are both disruptive to, methods there. So yeah, you either disrupt the opponent with this, or you leverage the economy war when you're ahead. It's one of the
Yeah.
few times Hazama will really be like winning the economy war. Usually he's spending so much that he can't play the economy game.
Right. And I mean, the fact that you just described this boost as having a niche application and coils the attack having a slightly niche application because it's so force hungry might mean that this card is just too force, which it sounds like he really badly needs.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah, like sometimes this will apply to all his ultras. Sometimes you just use them as 2 force.
Yep.
Like, sometimes you'll have a hand where like I've had hands where it's like all ultras.
Mhm.
And at that point it's like, well, I might as well just use having fun yet and pitch my ultras. At least then, it's card efficient.
Right.
And so you can do that. And win the economy war that way. Yeah, like you kind of yeah, I don't know. Like you say they can be forced. There are plenty of applications where you just use this as force to refill your hand, like the change cards action.
Yep.
But having fun yet, like I say, it's niche, but there's usually a time, like at least once a game, where you really want to play it, just because as the game goes on, your opponent starts to threat new options that are harder to deal with, whether it be their like ultra or I don't know, say they're like a boost character and they set up a situation and you can actually throw a wrench in that with having fun yet.
That
So
makes
when
that
we
makes
say like this, there's gonna like this is usually 2 force. I mean, it kind of is, but that's not the best way to think about it. It's gonna be in a having fun yet probably at least once a game
Okay.
based on my experiences. So
Makes perfect
you know,
sense.
like I said, I talked down this card, and
But
that's because
but
it's
everybody
it's
else
more
talked it
like
up.
it's because yeah, because
Right.
everyone talks it up is really the thing. It has its purpose, and you do really need it, but it's not as amazing. Like it's not a god tier card like everyone makes it out to be. So
Noted. Okay. Makes
right.
sense.
Then we have Hazama's other famous boost. It's a little less famous than the other one, only for the name. not necessarily the effect.
Right.
Draw 3 strike. It's what more can you really say about it? It's very, I would say, force efficient. You refill your hand, keeps offensive pressure going. Like, you know, usually you'll just play like slam this right away. You just want extra cards all the time. But this was it. If we had a graph of like how often you play the boost and how often you play the attack, like the graph like fluctuates, right?
Yeah.
Turn one, et cetera. Like you just slam this, draw cards, but as you approach 4 gates, the frequency of which you want to play that drops. Just because, like I said, this attack's really good. Kind of want to play it, but you know, Hazama's force hungry. You just wanna draw cards. What
Sure.
more is there to say?
That makes sense. And just
Yeah,
just for clarification, when I use this ability to strike, can I also set my Ouroboros?
yeah, you can
Okay.
because like you can. So
Oh,
yeah,
it's
the
not a season. It's
Ouroboros
not a
is when
season.
you.
It's not a season 6 thing. It's not like action
Yeah,
strike,
yeah.
etc. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's like Hazama is like whenever you decide to declare a strike, you can use your Ouroboros. So like when this says now strike, you
Okay.
you get to yeah, you can play your Ouroboros if you feel like yeah, I've refreshed my hand enough, I can play it. You can also use that with other cards that say now strike on it, which I mean, I already went over
Right.
Serpent's Benediction on these the special there. The only other card that really matters is reading.
Reading.
You
Sure.
can actually reading Ouroboros as well with the UA. It's kind of funny, but usually if you're reading, like you can probably win the strike either way, so you usually
Right.
don't spend. But
Yeah. You might not need to.
yeah,
Okay.
all right, we might as well round things out with the Astral.
Yes. So for again, this is my first season 5 guide. So people who might not be aware, an astral is something that you get in your hand when you use the reshuffle action. It rather than drawing for end of turn after you do it, this card comes into your hand instead. It's a 4 gauge ultra. It works just like other ultras. They all have the burst boost on them. Um, there's only one copy of them. They're not like other ultras. There's only one in the game. After it's played, it doesn't. I don't believe it goes to your discard pile. I think you seal it instead.
Mm,
Um, anything else about astrals in general that I'm missing, Bana?
no, not really. I guess the thing to say about Astrals is they're not all made equal.
Yeah.
Some Astrals are better than others.
Yep.
Hazama probably did, roll low on his Astral here. It's one of the few Astrals I have yet to land.
Really
Um,
interesting.
yeah, usually like Astrals, like there's Astrals like Hawkumins that are actually like very practical. But I don't want to say for the most part. It's more like this. They're so you have to reshuffle for them, so getting them to hands can be difficult. They tend to be high gauge costs, so they tend to be hard to play.
Your opponent can
So
just parry them because they know
usually,
you have
uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So there's a lot going against Astrals, which make them a little difficult to play. Um, But sometimes you're in a game where you just want to have fun, or if you play an Astral for the lulz. And like I said, I've tried, but it's kind of hard with Hazama's Astral, just because it does it has ignore guard, making it a good mid speed option.
Yep.
But your opponent will know you have it because you reshuffled for it,
Yep.
and it's really difficult to land just because it's one of the it only has the one range. Everything else in Hazama's kit's like, well, you can use his UA, you can improve like your what options you're threatening. But, you know, with Hungry Darkness of 1,000 Souls, there's only one spot where it'll hit. So it's kind of hard, or it's kind of hard to fake out the opponent with it. Um, because yeah, like you can only threaten it here. So like usually, you can either threaten to move back and fake them out with this, or threaten to come in and do it. But
Right. So it's something that they
you
have
know,
to
if
play. They have to play around, but you play a lot of Hazama, and you have yet to hit this card. That
yeah,
says a lot on its
I mean,
own.
yeah, it's like you can, like I said, the range band on Hazama's moves are a little bit better than what you have on this Ultra. So like
Sure.
you can improve like what options you're going for. I feel like you're reducing what you're threatening by like exclusively going for this line.
Right.
Once again, like Hazama's hungry for resources. So if you're like really going for this, that's also, well, the opportunity cost is
Of
Serpent's Infernal Rapture, Eternal Coils, Exceed Mode.
Yeah, there's a lot of other
So
stuff
that,
that you want to be spending, and also like burst is a
yeah,
perfectly good boost,
yeah.
right? Like draw.
Hazama really likes burst. Actually, like
Yeah,
if you find yourself reshuffling and you get this, you probably just burst this right away.
sure.
Get a reload on cards and just keep going to town.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
That's all I can really say about this. It's I don't want to call it the worst Astral, but it's just not something Hazama really appreciates. So,
Yeah, that's fair enough. I feel like he's looking for opportunities for forced cost savings. Burst is a perfectly good one.
mhm.
All right, now
All right,
let's talk about his exceed mode. Uh,
yeah,
so
Exceed Mode,
so one
yeah.
sorry for one more reiteration of season 5 mechanics. Uh, in season 5, characters do not exceed normally. They accrue the gauge that they need. In Hazama's case, it's 4. That gauge goes to their overdrive area. At the beginning of each of their turns, one card from that overdrive area goes away. They get the overdrive effect printed at the bottom of the card, and then they take their turn. They do whatever they want with it. Um, they get a special new version of their ability. At the end, once their overdrive is empty, they revert back to their front side and have to build gauge again. I think the other thing I would mention is that you can't use. I've been confused by this too. You can't play ultras from the gauge that's in your overdrive area. That gauge is reserved, so you can't really do
Mhm.
both.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not in your gauge zone anymore.
right.
So,
All right. Yeah. Sorry for the brief interruption there, Bana. Please go ahead.
yeah. So I mean, Azama's Exceed Mode. Well, Exceed UA is a bit more efficient, I would say, but it's not particularly amazing.
Right.
You'll like on front side, you can place one of these at range 1, and that's usually good enough.
Right.
You get an upgrade on this. You get to now. Well, let's go to starting range. You now get to place both of these at any like from range 0 to 2. So you can do that. Like, there's a lot of combinations you can do.
Right.
Um, makes the mix like you might if you're on this side, you might as well use the UA because why not?
Right.
Makes the mix up even harder. This range 4 is not a great example, but if you're at range 3, you're doing this. I was talking about the 4-way mix up. Yeah, we're like, am I? Where am I going now?
Right.
I mean, I'm obviously going somewhere because I placed both, but am I going to range 1 or am I staying in mix-up range?
Right.
It makes things infinitely harder to guess. And, like, sometimes if your opponent managed to get you, like, really or, like, managed to cross out at range 2 or something, established range
Right.
5, it's, usually on front side, you'd be limited to going to range 4 and maybe having to dive in or something. On Exceed Mode, you get one
You
extra
become
range, you can
much harder to run from.
yeah, you get harder to run from. It's not something you want to count on just because it's only temporary and you're spending gauge for that. So, like, it's not like you go, "Oh, I'm fighting a zoner, I'm gonna Exceed Mode, and they'll never
Right.
run away from me." No, eventually, they'll just
Yeah, it's 4
Well, they'll
turns.
just weather the storm, and they'll
Yeah,
wait for this to run out and then play
yeah.
the runaway game again, so it doesn't.
That said, though, speaking of weathering the storm, his overdrive ability, uh, deal 1 non-lethal damage, then gain 1 life. Over the course of 4
Yeah,
turns, that is an 8 damage delta.
yeah, I was about to describe that, and yeah, like, Hazama might have the best overdrive trigger in all of season 5, just
Yeah.
because it's it's just 4 free damage.
Yep.
4 free damage the opponent can't do anything about, and you gain 4 life. We're talking about Hazama, he's not very great at trading. He wants to like win in tiny precision way or precise ways. This The overdrive really does help mitigate that.
Hmm.
Like 4 life means if you lost a bad strike there, you can kind of shrug it off a little bit. And you said it's an 8 delta, so like if you're kind of winning already, like you're widening that life gap like significantly
Right.
by exceeding here. So um it's very good. But you can't kill with it. It's non-lethal, so you can't just you know go, they're at 4 life, I will flip over. Like at that point
Right.
you're probably like actually hurting yourself there.
Yeah,
You're not getting the full value
just hit him with
because
snake
you
kick.
have to strike the yeah.
You have 4 gauge, just do it. Just kill him.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so, this is like you wanna play it kind of in the mid game if you can, like, if you got to that point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a way of, like, really if he flips over, it's like it's offensive Hazama time. You're just trying to really put the squeeze on the opponent there, with the overdrive trigger and, like, the added mix-up potential there. Um Once again, it's you got to decide like whether you're going to be playing this or like say maybe snake
Right.
kick or something.
In
Um,
general, do you find yourself pushing for ultras or pushing for Hazama's Exceed, or is it too close to call?
I myself as a player usually push for snake kick.
Okay.
This, but this is kind of like I said. I don't know. Maybe it's just players getting better at like understanding my play style.
Hmm.
Because I found the value of snake kick has gone down as the years gone by, so I have moved over to the exceed side a bit more.
Okay.
But like the one downside to the exceed side is it's still like you're still spending force to use his UA. He doesn't get a discount on that.
Right.
Sometimes some characters like new is a good example. She has to spend a force to use her UA, and when she flips over, no, it's free now. Azama not so much. Like he just gets a stronger ability, but he still has to spend a force.
Right.
So you can't just flip over and go, yes, let exceed mode do the work. You still need to have cards in hand to make use of it. And if you don't have resources, just stay on front side and use your gauge to fund your UA or something else you can use, right? So
Right.
it's all about like it's one of those like once again, everything's precise with Hazama. You gotta know like you gotta like read where the game's going and what's gonna get you the most value.
Sure.
Um if it feels like your opponent is trying to be a little passive and you really just want to aggress on them, then yeah, sure, like exceed mode will do a lot of work for you there. Um, but if you find your opponents being like super aggressive there, then
Threatening
you can still only use your UA on offense.
right,
So
and
can't
threatening a huge ultra in that case might be is better, especially one that's
yeah
on curve and does 7.
or above curve
I'm sorry,
really.
above curve it 1 and
Yeah,
does
yeah,
7 damage. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So I'm about to ask you 2 unbelievably open-ended questions, and we are
Hmm.
about an hour and 45 minutes into this conversation, and I
Holy
apologize for.
moly.
Oh yeah, no, it always happens. Like I think that that every guest I've had has been surprised by that. So please don't worry about that. But yeah, so we've been talking about Hazama for a minute here.
Mhm.
Um, so impossible to answer. Open-ended question number one. These are the Hazama things. These are the tools that he uses, and this is probably my inexperience as a player that I'm having difficulty seeing it coalesce into a game plan. Is that because Hazama is just very flexible, or is that just because his tools don't have quite as like obvious an application as, say, I don't know, Mole Knight, who has like a pretty linear line where it's like, all right, you exceed and then you hit with +2 power all game and then they die. Like in a Hazama game, how am I winning? Basically, am I sitting at range 2, maintaining range 2 and playing scary mix-ups all game?
Yeah, so I would say yeah, like Hazama, he's gonna be a mix-up character, like first and foremost. That's like all his attacks are like I said, they're kind of precise. They beat certain things, and his UA is there to facilitate being at the ranges he needs to run a mix-up or to make the mix-up harder to guess.
Right.
So like in a way, like you you can't just go, "Ah, I am Hazama and I have unlocked a win condition." He's not one of
Right.
those characters. It's not like you go, "Okay, by I don't know, like the closest thing that we can think to as a win condition, it really is having fun yet,
Right.
where if you had won like a few like strikes and you're winning the economy war,
You can just
you have
you
a
can just
yeah,
kind of end
you
the
press
game.
yeah, you just end, well, not end the game necessarily, but you press this button that just I don't know, that says, "Hey, I'm gonna crash the economy." That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
I'm gonna
So,
I'm gonna short sell all my shares in a company and ruin the economy. That's
oh
what I'm
god,
gonna
and
do.
Hazama would, right?
Yeah, you sure would.
Okay. So it sounds like, brush up on your offensive theory, right? Like this is not a
Mhm.
character where you are able to coast by on his overwhelming stats. You need to know how to throw mix-ups. You need to know how to keep options live. This is not a character that has a line necessarily. This is a character who is strategically oriented, and has a
Yeah.
lot of flexibility to them. Okay, good to know. The other um, the other very open-ended question is, again, these are all the Hazama things. Um, what is my opponent doing to stop me from doing my Hazama things? And as Hazama, what can I do to kind of counteract that? Like, are they trying to
Alright.
stay? They're trying to zone me. Are they trying to stay at range 1? Like, what are my answers to their answers? Basically,
Okay. Well, so there that's a very multifaceted
yeah.
question.
I figured I'd
That
spring it
one
on
there,
you at the end of the lesson. Now that
no, that's
uh,
okay. I was
you've to-
expecting that question just because looking at D's guide, I saw there's a section on counterplay, so I made
yep.
sure to have that. It just counterplaying Hazama is there's a lot of approaches to it. As we mentioned before, Hazama doesn't really have a like like I said, the closest thing he has to a win condition is like economy,
Mhm.
or just like if he can just either run you out of answers and then just run offense forever.
Right.
So like one of the ways to like just mitigate that is just don't really create a situation where you don't have to engage in the mix up as much. Um, you know, a lot of like exceed theory is if you can cross out of an opponent's strike on their turn, you've gotten a lot of value.
Yeah.
Against Hazama, I mean, he doesn't have a cross counter, and he doesn't have like a DP. If you cross at range 2, you're actually pretty safe. You've built distance. Hazama can't really threaten you with a whole bunch. The best he can really do from this range, if he wants to get back in, is like maybe you wait a range 4 dive or venom sword or something.
Right.
Like you can by building space, you can be kind of safe. And that'll give you time to prep or get your resources back. You're also forcing Hazama to come back into you, which means he's dropping his options. Which means like now you're winning the economy war. You're winning the information war.
Sure.
So you can do stuff like that. Um, on a more character specific aspect, like with Ryu, Ryu has a bunch of stats on his cards. He has a bunch of good stat boosts. If Hazama's like insisting on going to range 2 and doing stuff, just drop a light and go, hey, if you're gonna try and mix me, like I'm gonna make life difficult for you.
Right.
Um, because yeah, like if you create a situation where Hazama can't run his mix as well, or like you change the risk reward so that it favors you, the person who's gonna die first is Hazama, just because. Well, especially into someone like Ryu who has like
Right.
a bunch of fives and sixes on a bunch of random cards compared to
Yeah.
Hazama's like
I mean,
threes and fours.
Hazama's not hitting hard. He needs to successfully mix up his opponent a few times to like.
Hmm.
It's not a situation there are other kind of offensively oriented characters who run a few mix-ups and over the course of those few mix-ups have dealt 15 life.
Yeah.
Hazama's not really like that.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like like I said, you can try to just mitigate and play the economy game, or you can just outstat Hazama. Those are like the two big things that Hazama's really worried about. How to deal with that is kind of a difficult. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult question. So, like when you're getting outstatted, it's really just you're just gonna have to like deal with that. If people are running a boost war, I mean, once again, like this
Yeah.
bails you out here.
Use your disruption card. Sure.
Yeah, you use your disruption to like because usually they'll have like if you're in a boost war, usually they have a specific card they want to play. You
Yeah, they're trying to
can
pay
try and
out.
snipe
Right.
it. Yeah, you can snipe that with having fun yet.
Right.
Um, the thing is, that becomes infinitely more difficult if your opponent is playing a boost game and then also like winning on the economy war. I feel like if you're in that situation, you just lose and you might as well pack it up and call it a day.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if they're beating you, but also if they're beating you on two fronts at once, they probably deserve the
yeah,
W, right?
yeah,
Like they're playing
exactly,
very well if they're
exactly.
doing that. Okay,
Yeah,
that's how you beat
yeah.
Hazama. That makes sense.
Yeah, you kind of do that. Like counterplaying into that, it's kind of difficult. Like I said, you have the almighty equalizer in that card, but as I said, it equalizes. It doesn't really
It doesn't really
unless
win you
you
the
like it
game,
doesn't pull you ahead unless you're already ahead.
right?
So like it doesn't like put you into the winning position. Yeah, like Hazama really has to, I would say, rely on system mechanics for someone who is really creating situations that are difficult for them. You're gonna have to like play more risky. You're gonna have to like try and do some Hail Mary readings and stuff like that because he doesn't really have a way to, I guess, turn the corner here. He's kind of boxed into a specific that specific game plan he has, and it's kind of hard for him to, you know, uh, I guess, adjust that.
Sure.
So it's that is going to definitely be a weak point of his. Is if your opponent knows how to run the counterplay, it's really hard to adjust to that. So
Well, that all makes sense. I mean, and I mean, he seems like a strong character. It seems like he can win games just fine. It seems like the
mhm.
problem, kind of the problem with a guide like this, is that the actual path to winning requires a lot of fundamental knowledge that
Yeah,
goes beyond just his kit. Like basically, the way that you beat Hazama is to play good Exceed, and the way that you win with Hazama is to play better Exceed than your opponent.
yeah, that
Um,
that
which
is
which which is fair. I mean, like like I said after the previous question, like brush up on your offensive theory. This is a character that
Hmm.
doesn't have a dominant line. Just
Hmm.
play the game well.
Yeah.
But I mean, that all
Yeah.
makes sense to me. So I'm gonna say, Bana, we're closing in on 2 hours here. Anything else that you want to mention about how Hazama works? Anything that we missed out on?
Um, I don't believe we did. Let me just quickly go over my notes here. We went over counterplay, went over his kit. Yeah, you know, I had like a section written down about normals, but that's gonna like if we wanted to go over in normal interactions, that's gonna take a while, and also a lot of that boils down to just play good exceed.
Sure.
There are a million normal guides out there, that'll describe how like the exceed engine works, and if you're a new player, like just look at that. And I already hinted at some of the things you want to be concerned with for normals with Hazam over the course of the guide, which was, just keep your options open. Don't just drop your spikes early, because then your opponent has nothing to fear. I mean, you can, dive still works as a spike replacement if, say, you're in that unfortunate position. But then the lesson is don't drop both spikes and dives, right?
And
So
dives, sure, yeah. And
yeah,
by the same token, don't drop both your assaults.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
your opponent you can just defend on curve. Although you do
yeah.
have
I
a fair
mean,
number
yeah, you have more
fast
assault shapes
options.
than you do spike shapes,
True,
so
true, true,
like you
true.
can you can be more liberal with dropping assault shapes than you
Makes
can
sense.
spike shapes. So
Makes sense. Okay. Well, how about this, Bana? I write notes that I kind of turn into a written guide for all of these videos, and they're linked in the description. So, how about after this, you send me your notes on normals, and I'll put them in there. So, if anyone's interested in some of
mhm.
that stuff, we can do it that way.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
to
I'll
keep
have
this a little bit
yeah,
brief.
I can definitely do that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, in that case, Bana, seriously, for real, thank you so much. This has been really, really enlightening and really entertaining. I've enjoyed learning about Mean Snake Man quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, looking forward to having you on the show again. Can't wait to talk to you some more. And everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And go play some Hazama.
Yeah, Hazam was cool.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.